We believe we can, and this is a blind belief. Like we just start out, and this is maybe it's because we are brainwashed to believe in talent, but we believe it. And every one of us that makes art at some point, we didn't make art, so it had to kind of come to us as a file that says, I want to make art, and suddenly this guy turns into something happy. Because I don't know. So we want to make art, and then we may end up frustrated because things don't work. And for the most part, people that make art, they have made drawings and paintings that are completely bad because we have to learn. And basically, we don't really learn art, but we learn how to make art that we want to make. Because it is my art, I want my art to be in a specific way, style, colors, composition, etc., etc. And that is a process. That is not a process that comes natural to the brain like these files. The ability to depict 3D form on paper is not a natural process for the brain. So this has to be learned. Writing language, A, B, C, D, X, H, W, Z, is not a natural process. We learn this. So to sum this up, arranging lines, right? I put this on paper, and maybe I put it this way on paper, and I will put it on paper again, and I'm creating a letter. This is language, because we can write words. Hello! So this is a arrangement of lines that equals language. And I can arrange lines just the same to create a language that speaks 3D form. Let it sink in for a moment. So one thing that seems to be essential, and it's so weird, and knowing how to fix your mistakes is basically the one hurdle. This is you, and we all want to be the sprinter, right? Like we want to be Usain Bolt. There is a wall, and the wall involves just the process. How to get over this? How to get over this? Right? That is your problem. So you build a ladder, right? So it's like there's a kind of thing for this finding solutions to a problem. It's a phrase I forgot. So when we make our drawings and the drawing turns out bad, we create a hurdle, we create a wall, and we basically trap ourselves in a box. And this again is the experience, and it seems so awkward that like the artist in question, even myself, we would bang our heads against the wall, being all frustrated and mad that we basically have a wall. All we really gotta do is basically take a peek behind the wall and look, right? And that again, it involves basically we don't create art, but we create the problem that we don't want. And before we actively, and this is what I was saying, don't just draw, but actively be at it. Like you're doing something and you're basically doing it with only 20% of your brain capacity or mind capacity, where you're doing this and basically my arm is like moving on paper, but I'm watching a movie and not really paying attention. That it's not the point. So still actively thinking, actively engaging. And it's like mental engagement. Like the rocket in the military, you have your target, you lock it down, and this is my target. My target is the wall. My target is the thing that makes my drawing go shit, right? Or that turns my drawing into not being desirable. So I look at this, I actively analyze. I analyze all day. And then I would try to find ways to fix things. And again, for my experience, most people don't go there. They just like we all want things to just work and just be there, and when we want them, and they should be perfect because we want them to be perfect. And still, the one thing that is keeping us away is this one step. I have no idea what it is, where it comes from, but it is there. It's right in our faces. So where's the difference between the people, or between the average human mind that makes the drawing is ending up in frustration and not continuing the journey, compared to this other average mind that looks at the drawing, analyzes, and thinks to figure out where the problem comes from. And the problem is basically the reason for the frustration. So how logical would it be to keep ignoring this kind of process, which basically actively involves yourself in finding solutions to the problems that you make? Basically the mistakes that you create in your drawings. And it's so easy to be frustrated. Words. So what I'm practicing is not the anatomy. It's not necessarily what you see, but it is the process that creates what you see. And that is not about just anatomy and just like figure drawing of basically drawing heads and shoulders and arms. There's something more in it. So I hope I'm still making sense. So for my brain, I would say I'm kind of fairly clear when it comes to my mistakes. So when you know the mistakes, and this is where you have the wall, and you can precisely engage the wall without actually having to take detours, because you know what the problem is. If you didn't know what the problem is, you couldn't really, find the right door, find the right key, or something, because that too is part of the problem. If I don't know where my mistakes come from, like what solution do I possibly have, and then it seems so very natural to be frustrated. And we all know this. Like if we have to tinker with technology and our PCs, our phones, because they don't work right, we end up frustrated because we have no control over the technology. If we were basically tech savvy and basically engineers that made that technology, we would understand why the technology is failing. And we would have a better idea of the process that is involved, basically, that leads to the failing of the technology. And we wouldn't be frustrated. It's basically like cooking. You follow the recipe and you obey the recipe. And if your sauce tastes like farts, you look at the recipe, or you basically at the ingredients that you put in the cooking pot. You don't end up being frustrated. But again, we have the ability to look at things and focus, and then work towards solving or achieving, having, getting this or getting it out of our ways. So from other things that I could basically teach, it's not about the fundamentals of anything. It's the fundamentals of fixing your own mistakes, because that is your hurdle. When you're basically drawing, you will notice that there is something that you can't do, and you have to build a ladder to get over this. Am I making any sense? So weird. I have no idea how my brain actually ended up with these thoughts, but I think um, it was part, like the way I can work on basically building my ladders is very sophisticated, because I practice this specifically to know where my mistakes come from, and then you get very good at finding your problems, and then you get very good at fixing your problems. And I think this is where it's a fun place in a way, because going from 0 to 100% skill improvement, and this is like daily, right? You have a daily kind of potential of how you can improve your skill. That means you can set like 4 hours apart for drawing studies, or basically practice or learning, do whatever you want. And knowing which things you have to work on lets you focus these. Like you can basically lock on like a laser and then shoot your rockets. If you didn't know what these are, you couldn't do this. And that means when you are clear with your problem solution, you can work on your problems, be very precise, and improve in a crazy amount of time. It is basically a matter of hours. It's a matter of days where you will increase your skill exponentially. Basically because you have it in your eyes that lets you form the laser, and it is so bundled and so dense that you are bursting through your walls. Basically, I like these visualization things. Just saying. I like shooting rockets, yeah. I like being focused. I'd say when I talk I'm out focused, just a wink, but I like it this way. And it's not like I wouldn't enjoy ADHD and not being able to concentrate and focus. And there is the kind of thing we call attention span. And attention span, and as the Jedi would say, like, focus is determining your reality. And if your focus goes to what's drawing and remains there, like a leech, that is kind of what you want. So have it be a leech. Otherwise, it will bounce around from all different things and never really focus on anything because the attention is drawn away. I'm working on the basic gesture for human profile, body, arm, torso, how arm connects to shoulder blades and torso. On top of this, I'm figuring out what angles my lines need to properly portray the form. So that it has to look correct, and I have to adjust my angles more than anything. Or basically still subdividing arm places, or the entire chunk of arm, shoulders, neck. I have to subdivide this into the proper shape so that I can basically, this looks fairly nice in terms of the form. It is more male, but that's fine. If I adjust this slightly, I will create the female. But I have to find the planes, and this was one. There's a triangle. There's another triangle on this side, and this is the kind of process. I have to figure out how to subdivide my form or my shape properly, so that I can ultimately figure out how I want to draw it. But I kind of know how I want to draw it. So this is the kind of practice, and I go through this. So even though these weird looking planes, this one, this one, this one, when I draw the thing from the profile view, I try to find these same lines and same planes. That is probably what I'm working on. It's kind of more about how to make form than it is about the anatomy. However, I am trying to create form that looks like anatomy, but I'm focusing on what makes the form and not really what is the anatomy. There's a difference. There is a how, and there is a what I draw. What I draw is the anatomy. That's like 20% focus. How I draw is 80% focus. There's a good. I loved it. I seen the Last Jedi. Failures are the best teacher. Like how smart could it be, right? It slaps into your face, and we all probably knew this. And learning experiences come from mistakes. And still, people might not be inclined to listen to me, but when Yoda said it, it has to be right. It has to be true. But it is very true. So one of the basic things for the people that are new. So when you have your cube, usually I would hatch along the plane to visualize the plane. Every plane in XYZ has its own angle. So what I don't do is follow these around, but I go across, and then I go across again. I don't follow these around, because following these around would create flow, which is fine, but still, these are the compartments of my 3D box. And then I have a more complex form, but it still has these compartments. And for the cube, I have it very simply because I just go across basically like this: flat top, flat side, flat front, and basically I messed it up. Wait, can I actually, it has to, one of these is wrong. One of these is wrong. So this goes there, there's my box. Wait, I'm messing this up weirdly. So figuring out the right angles that would describe the right form of my leg and the belly. That is kind of the tricky part. And I know the leg is round. What I can't use is basically a completely horizontal line. What I have to use is basically, I have to be aware of the perspective. Do I see it from the side? Or do I see the side and I slightly see the top? There's a perspective difference because I, as the observer, I'm elevated and I see the top. I don't see the top in this case because my eye-line can be aligned with this place. And I wouldn't even see the top. So if I'm slightly elevated, this angle, horizontal angle, would change into something like this. Or something like this. Because this angle is part of a different perspective. Because this one is part of a plane that is already seen from above. And there goes. There's my default cube, and this is my default perspective. If I have different lines, and that means all I really look at is this angle and this angle. There's a difference. If I have these angles, I have a box in this perspective. And this is the side, this is the front. If I change this angle, I'm changing the perspective. Now if I change two angles, I change, let's see, this one to this. It's basically this one. And I keep this up. I'm changing the perspective and the rotation of my box. Technically not really, but I have a facing direction of my box, which is this one. And in this case, it's facing a different direction. It's basically the box put on a stick and it's rotating around the stick. This is your axis. Stuff. So this is for technique, and what I'm basically trying to find out is how to effectively portray the form in its organic nature in XYZ. It's putting this in words and actually making sense of this A plus B plus C equals this. It's a very long-winded sentence. Thanks for the sub, Nintendi. Much appreciated. Welcome to the craziness. I do appreciate the support. Love you, love you, love you. Wait, how do I do this? 5, 6. Yes. Thank you. Did you say anything in chat? Because I don't see. I thank you. Thank you. Have some cubes. Yeah. There we go. Am I making sense? Am I making sense? And there is a universal way. I have a highlight where I was going into this kind of drawing is a language, and it's not a language to make words. It is a language to make form. And that is how I see things. So even when I have my head, and this is like drawing heads, I subdivide. What I know is the first thing is the head is round for the most part. So it's not completely flat like a plane, right? So I have this, and then I would subdivide my thing into pieces. And every compartment basically can be part of the sphere. But it has roundness information, it has curvature information, where it actually goes around the thing. And then the question is, how do I hatch? How do I wiggle my lines across to make the form show? That is a magic. It is awesome, and it is magic. It makes sense, turning organic shapes into geometric surface. Yes, and it goes vice versa. And there is a diagram, and I like this. The Fibonacci spirals, and I always did this. You have a curve. You find points on the curve, and you connect the points. You simplify the curve. Right? That was wrong. But you simplify the curve into. You go from organic, infinitely complex, to something simple that can be analyzed. And it is literally the same thing because you can make points and you can connect these with a line. You can connect these with a curve. These are part of your planes. Basically, there is a plane and that turns this thing into a ribbon. And then it's the question, how does this thing move through 3D space, because it is moving through 3D space. Just like my arm can move through the 3D space. And there is a ribbon on top of like my torso like this, and there's the plane. I have ribbons in my face, and usually it's a weird way of looking at this, but still going in with lines and showing some kind of form development. That is what I always look for, so that I can make sense of things, including knowing there's your ear and this is actually in shadow, and there's another shape and this too would be in shadow because the face is covering things up. And still there is so much roundness going on in the face that I still want to describe. In flow, in organic, in geometric, it doesn't really matter. But there is so much stuff going on that I have to describe, and it doesn't work if I just use the values like painting. And this already shows me so much more form than anything else. Painting this, just to visualize this form would cost so much time. Not the best head, but let's see what else do I have. Potato drawings. But this is definitely what I practice. Because when you look at this and you wonder, how is this so awesome? How's this so awesome? We can basically reverse engineer, and this is the thing that we have. And I'm loving this leg because the form, the volume, and it shows direction in free space. Like it actually shows me the thing. And then we have two compartments. We have the insides of my shape, which is basically a hatching, and we have the outsides. And the outside, like just this is my shape. It doesn't contain any sort of 3D information. And then applying this the right way, it's like blowing my mind in XYZ with sparkling rainbow colors. Because it reveals so much crazy information. Even this one, I can have a plane on the entire side of this body. Like it goes from this ankle, and there's still this hard angle that is part of the box. There is a box, and it stretches all the way around the leg, the calf, the thighs. There it goes. It continues across the hips and ends up at the torso. And this is a plane that I would establish. Naturally, I like this plane. I would have a different plane on the inside of my leg. So the question for me is, what lines, what angle do I need to really show the surface in its roundness and in its direction? Depending on angles and perspective and things and stuff, I know what I have to do, and I know that my ground plane is this, right? Ground plane has this angle, and it is the same angle. And then I use this angle and I run it across, and I change this in places because curvature is different, or the alignment is different, or something is different. And then it goes all the way across. If I change my angle, and I can do this once, right? If I keep this angle the wrong type and wrong way, you will get the wrong impressions because it's not supposed to be like this. And it is a rather random applying, just throw it on top. And it is a completely different impression. So if I run this across in different ways, I create a different surface. And I'm not shading this like the other leg. I'm using something different. So there's my plane. And then it's twisting across the knee and it's running back. It is still making a form, but it is creating a different form. And certainly due to this weird overlap, I have a completely odd looking leg, essentially. And certainly the feet are not going this way. Make sense? That is what I'm working on. Finding the right planes to then interpret with the right angles. it's not limited, or it's not really the anatomy. I am visualizing anatomy, but it is a kind of different thing. I would say again, there is a what I draw and there is a how I draw it. And how I draw it is the technique that I'm using. This hatching. There is a logic, there is a reasoning behind my lines and angles. It's not random, it's not arbitrary. There is a deeper meaning. It sounds weird. It sounds weird. But every line has basically information about curvature, form, direction, alignment in space, orientation in space, etc., etc. Every line contains perspective information, basically. Usually it doesn't. Usually it doesn't. But that's kind of how I look at lines and things. And I can make a jump back before I jump off mic again to rest my brain. The thing that I would need, I make mistakes. I make mistakes. Look at me making mistakes. I will show you guys. You can even look at my improvement. When did I make these? A couple of days ago still. I do it once, I observe, I analyze, and this is where I have this wall, I have the barrier, and I have to find a solution, meaning I have to build a ladder, or basically build a rocket that will destroy my wall, so that I can progress and proceed and move on. And I have to look at stuff, and I have to basically take things apart completely. Like it's a puzzle, and I have to dissect all the 5,000 pieces, and then find different approaches to what do I actually need to change to get to my desired and my wanted result. And that is like anything's the mind is doing where the mind has no insight into. It's like me trying to play the violin. I have no idea what I'm doing, so of course I make the mistake. And then when we start to draw, we basically just draw. So we draw to make art, and we have no idea what we're doing. And we hope it in our best intentions that things would work and come out correctly. Most of the time they don't. Sometimes they do. And this is a very frustrating process, but it is necessary. It is very necessary. When we started learning how to write our ABC, we made mistakes because we had no idea what we are doing, because it is writing and reading was something we had to learn. And when it comes to how efficient and sufficient and effective and proficient we are with writing and reading, we can make the conclusion that there is a possibility to become as good, as fluid, as liquid, as awesome with just drawing. It's just another language. It's a visual language. But still, there is a possibility. And again, it's about do it once, make the mistake, find out the reason why you made the mistake, and solve this once and for all. Don't just fix the drawing, but fix it's like the process that made the drawing. And I make my drawings. So it is kind of dependent on what I know about what I'm doing. If I'm riding a bike, I have to know what I'm doing. Otherwise, I fall on my face. If I don't know this, and again, we go through the process of analyzing naturally when we ride the bike, right? We may still be frustrated, but we know this like naturally that we are not doing it correctly. And then when it comes to art, we basically bang our heads against the wall. It's not like riding a bike, and we would assume there again we would believe that we already know how to do it, because there is a sense, there is a kind of perception that would tell us we know this, we know how to do this. I had this, like, something was responsible for me wanting to be an artist. There was some kind of experience that I had, and I believed I can. And then I tried, and I noticed I can't. Oh my god! And I stopped drawing, basically, because it was frustrating. I had no idea what to learn. So again, if I had the idea of what is required to fix the mistake, I would have done it. I would have done it, obviously. But there was nothing, so I had no idea what's going on. So What do you mean the thinking? And I would say the thinking process is part of the technique. And the one part is what goes through my brain that leads my arm to perform a certain motion. And I would say thinking and technique is more important than the actual anatomy of what you're drawing, because if you have no ability of drawing, it doesn't matter what you know, because you still can draw, and you can know everything about anatomy. You can know everything about architecture and everything. If you can't draw, you can't draw. And that is because drawing is a visual language. I want to convey things. I want to convey the impression of form, or the feeling of form, the feeling of space, perspective and size and scale. And that it doesn't come from drawing cars to understand how to get scale and size and perspective and space and value and shading and light and shadow in my drawings. And when you know it once, like how to shade form or how to make perspective, it is universal. You can apply this to everything. You can draw a box in perspective, you can draw people in perspective, you can draw cars in perspective. You can draw bunnies or spiders or cats, everything. Because it does apply. And maybe there's a mix up with the terminology. But the thinking process, your individual thinking process, is part what can develop your style. It develops your technique that creates your style. Because drawing realistic is basically this approach. Drawing more anime and cartoony is this approach, and there is a difference in approach because I have to change the size. And then again, there is the second step is drawing eyes, because something is different from anime and more realistic. And maybe I'm simplifying things or mixing things up. Um, but still, I would have, like, I wouldn't accept it straight away. Thinking is important. Technique is important. And then I'm always kind of analyzing, like, what do I want? What am I doing in terms of what is drawing? And it is part of visualizing. And then I have to find ways to. You always have to draw a thing. Like right now, I'm drawing the torso. I'm drawing the body. And then I have to think about, how do I want to make my body look? Do I want to have this in anime style? Do I want to shade? Do I want to use colors? Do I want to use textures, etc., etc.? And I would say, and maybe I'm definitely taking a weird turn, but my thinking, the way I thought about stuff, led to my technique. And all of this understanding that I basically have for teaching comes from me where's my wall? Where's my laser wall? There we go. There we go. It comes from having a wall to building a ladder to getting over the ladder, etc., over and over again for multiple years. What's up, Aikuya? How are you doing? Yeah, my arms are getting weird. True, true, true. Drawing space, yes, drawing space, and I gotta. It is what I wanted. When I started out, it was my wall was basically how to make stuff not look flat. There was the one, not flat, and then how to make stuff stand away. This is my wall. This is me, and I want to understand how to make stuff stand away, because it is protruding into space and it is coming closer to me as the observer. And there is a perspective kind of weirdness. If you, I've broken this down multiple times, the way I look at perspective, etc., etc. Once you know this, you can apply this, and you can learn to apply this. And I learned this, so I'm in a way speaking from experience. What I never did is using a book or basically perspective grids. It's so weird. Like, it's so weird, and I like understanding is a weird kind of thing. It is the weirdest kind of things. Even though the cube is wonky, it is so easy to draw it. Let's say when it comes to the space, there are so many different ways to approach this. And I would say approach it small and easily. And in a way, it goes step by step. We kind of want to do the most complex and most awesome things, just like uh, if it's about writing, learning how to write, we want to do the poetry and singing and writing songs because they rhyme. But we gotta start with basically writing A's like 50 times so we know the movement. So we are very familiar with the movement until it becomes second nature. And that is something that can translate to drawing because you can do something so many times and keep your mind at it that it will become second nature. And now you want to turn the creation of space into second nature. And it is a step-by-step process where you have basically where you want to be and where you are. And you basically don't jump, nor can you take a slingshot rope and basically climb across. You have to go step by step by step by step. And this is for the reason that in your brain you have to understand the process of performing these steps so that you can jump over them and basically go from you make the right line. And this is what you want to do. You want to make the right line, leave the right mark on paper. What is this? Can't even speak. The 2024 super crazy hyper sub. My jaw dropped. My jaw dropped. Thank you for the crazy support, and I think we unlocked a new emote. Yeah. Let me just take a breath for a moment. 2 seconds. Okay, again. Thanks. Thank you for the crazy support. I can erase this, and I will gotta think about a new emote. Bye. Heavy breathing, yes. Thank you for the support. It is a million times appreciated. A million times appreciated. To kind of sum this up one more time. So making the mistake and understanding how to basically leave the right marks is what we want. How we get to this is basically we just do it once and leave the wrong marks so that we can look at this and analyze and understand how to fix this to get to where we want to be in terms of this is the way I want to draw things. And at first I can't draw the things how I want to draw them because I don't know how. And this is like I always wanted to draw like this. And now I can reflect on all the things that I had to go through and learn and rehearse and practice and basically I made mistakes for 6,620 layers, and this is on one document series. I had a second document series where I had 5,500 plus layers. And I made mistakes in all of these over and over again. It's like, you don't really climb the mountain. You slide up like a snail and you crawl because the mountain has gravity. It has its own gravity. And I gotta visualize this. So you're sliding up the slope. Because this is how it goes. And let's say I made the math. This is my canvas. I had my canvas space so I can make four in a row and basically 12 to 16 studies on one page. That is 69K studies plus. I still have layer 1, yes. Layer 1 contains a portrait. I made a couple of portraits when I felt like painting all these years ago. What is the main purpose of your drawing? My main purpose is learning the skill. I don't learn to make stuff where it contains a drawing. Sure, it's what I want, but at first I have to fill my brain with knowledge that basically develops a process that lets me create artworks of a specific kind, a specific quality, and that contains art that I enjoy making. And let's say the past 7 to 5 years, I couldn't do this because I didn't have the skill. It's like trying to perform martial arts on the black belt level and fighting Bruce Lee when you know you can't. You know, so it's I really learned to understand things, to really figure out how things work, so that having the skill, I can make stuff that I like, or basically I like making. Show layer one is it will eat up all my memory. I can technically let's do this. I gotta do it once. It's gonna eat up all my memories though. I think no, this is not it. This is 2017. Old chunk. It's not there. Gotta find this. Processed. 2015. Processed. Cat lady. Live casts. Is this the one? Okay, this is how it goes back. You see live untitled 41 206. At document number 41, I start with 1 again. So I have 41 documents. And then it goes to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and so on and so forth. And I'm not sure if this is the one. Or if I have to go back to basically live untitled 1. 2015. Let's just try. Let's just try. Well, then I was thinking, okay, that draw ladies. Let's try. Good luck. Good luck is crossed. I'm on layer 170, 1000. This is not it. I was painting. This is not it. I mean, I am working to become a full-time, full-fledged artist. I will do what I can to get the skill to get the good jobs. And I always thought about it this way because, like, if I have no skill, I can't get the good jobs. If I have the good skills, okay, there we go. If I have the good skill, you can get the good jobs. And there's the requirement. I want to be a professional. I want to be kick-ass. And the only thing I need is not a portfolio that shows you I can make good artworks in 200 hours. I want to make these artworks in 5. There's some flickering going on. I got to switch. Okay, layer 1. Layer 1. Layer 1. Layer 1 is great. Layer 2. Layer 2. There you go. Layer 3. What is this? Layer 3. Layer 4. 5. 6. This is like, let's see how long ago this is. This is from 2014. Middle of the year 2014. 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Okay, is there a jump? There is a jump. There's a jump. Level 2, level 3, layer 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 is missing. 8 is missing. But this is the document. And part of this is fine. I was terrible and I didn't really care to copy too much from reference. I just wanted to see how I can make form and then paint and stuff. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. He's actually getting worse. you will regain the knowledge. Your brain will help you remember. And that is what the brain does. It will remember. There you go. Time travel to 2014. Holy cow. Holy cow. Holy cow. I came a long way, I have to say. Oh god. All this sliding up mountain slopes. where the gravity is so much. Okay, I will throw something in there for the new people and old people. I have educational things. If you are on my channel and it says it's playing a podcast, but this is live, so you click on videos, you can close this. You click on all videos and go to highlights. You press move over. You press Control F and look for educational, and you will see it light up. There's 33 videos labeled with education in the title. You can basically click any of these, and skim through. You don't have to watch these. Like sometimes I have empty bits where I don't really talk about stuff, but otherwise browse through and you will see me talk and explain stuff. Watch this stuff. If you want to learn about all kinds of things, perspective, space, my technique, how I work, how my brain works, you find plenty of educational stuff. I'll put the link in the chitty chats. There you go. Okay, how do I go back to my channel? Click. Okay, 1 second. Oh my god. here's the weirdness, right? You have the video and the chat and you move this, and then there it goes. It just flops about and oh my god. So weird. So weird. Streamception. Streamception. You can learn. Your brain will remember. I will quickly post another link for my Discord. If you guys want to join, you can post your art, sketches, drawings, paintings. Ask questions in Discord if you like. There's a really bunch of helpful people out there, including me, Kappa. Okay, yoink. Yoink. Okay, Discord is kind of slow because it's not loading the messages for whatever reason. Switch things, click things. Rearrange my weird windows. I need more screen space. Okay, I will check my uptime to have the time. But this would make a good another educational podcast. I suppose. Just like random educational information or just things people need to hear anyway, even though it's not really about like how do you get good at figure drawing or perspective drawing. It's still good information. It's basically when you know how your brain learns, you will treat yourself differently. It's like you will feed yourself the food step by step and not basically stuff it into your face. That is like it helped me immensely understanding how my brain, or just a little bit figuring out how the brain is dealing with information and how it goes from just looking at stuff to knowing stuff to then eventually it sinks into your brain layers where it is hardwired memory. And it's not something that you may forget, but even though you may forget this, it's still in your brain, contained in terms of the neural net, where you have these synapses and they spark. Every time they are engaged, they spark. And eventually they spark so much that they build a bridge and they build a connection. And this is what you want, where you basically go from, this is the letter A, and this is how it sounds, A. So I connect this image with the sound of H. It is a, you know, I connect this weird picture of a circle with the sound O, right? So there is the association, and this is happening in the brain. And then connecting this to drawing is basically I have to connect this thing with the space and the perspective of a box. Just one example. but it's helping a lot when you know that. Don't be frustrated before you actually have absorbed all the necessary information. I gotta rest my brain, go to the bathroom, and I will be back. Any other questions? Any other questions? I could just probably go on and talk and talk. Bathroom, burp, 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 right? Yeah, that's what we do. Burp, 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 burp. I don't know how to type. See, this is when I don't pay enough attention. What's up, Palomio? How are you doing? But if there are any other questions, I will definitely answer those. Otherwise, I may go off mic for a bit and keep on studying. Otherwise, if there are questions,